What if I told you that the rich don't just get richer by working harder, but by playing a rigged economic game you didn't even know existed? What if every crash, every inflation wave, every interest rate hike wasn't a surprise, but a move in a cycle they control? If you've ever felt like no matter how much you work, save, or invest, you're still falling behind, you're not imagining it. You are a pawn in a cycle designed by the elite, and in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how the game works, how they win, and how you can finally stop playing by their rules. Stick with me till the end, because once you understand this cycle, the print, tighten, pop, profit cycle, you'll never look at news, markets, or even your paycheck the same way again. This isn't just financial education, it's economic warfare. Let's begin. Welcome to Debt-Free Lane, the place where we expose the systems keeping you poor and teach you the knowledge no school, no bank, and no government will ever tell you. In this episode, we dive into one of the biggest secrets of global finance, the elite's economic cycle, the hidden rhythm behind booms, busts, and bubbles. We'll break it down step by step, with brutal clarity, and by the end of this video, you'll be armed with the awareness to protect yourself, maybe even profit while the system eats everyone else alive. Ready to understand the true rules of the economic game? Let's set the stage. The year is 2008. A financial tsunami hits the world. Banks collapse. Millions lose homes. People protest. But while the middle class bleeds, stock markets are bailed out. The Fed starts printing money, trillions. Interest rates drop to zero. And then asset prices explode. Stocks, real estate, crypto, they all skyrocket. Fast forward a few years, inflation begins to roar. The same central banks that printed money now slam the brakes. They raise interest rates, cut the flow, and call it tightening. Then comes the pop. Markets crash. Layoffs rise. Bankruptcies spike. Then silence. Calm. Then it begins again. Print. Stimulate. Inflate. Pop. Repeat. This is not chaos. This is a cycle, a rigged machine, a money game, and it's not new. This cycle has repeated again and again in the 1970s, 1980s, dot-com crash, 2008 crisis, COVID stimulus, and now again in the 2020s. But here's the question, who controls this cycle and who profits? The cycle begins with money printing, also known as quantitative easing. It sounds technical, but it's simple. Central banks, like the US Federal Reserve, create digital money out of thin air. They use that money to buy assets, government bonds, mortgage-backed securities, and more. The goal? Push interest rates lower, flood the system with cash, make borrowing cheap, encourage spending and investing. But here's the kicker, when this new money enters the system, it doesn't go equally to everyone. It flows to the top first. Banks, hedge funds, institutional investors, they get the fresh money first. They buy assets, stocks, real estate, even Bitcoin, before the rest of the public realizes what's happening. Prices start to rise, asset inflation begins. The rich get richer, not because they're smarter, but because they're earlier in the cycle. They buy cheap before the bubble inflates. Meanwhile, the middle class sees rising prices and FOMO kicks in. They buy in too, but later at higher prices. They enter the bubble at the top, not the bottom. And this is where the trap begins to close. There's a name for this unfair advantage. It's called the Cantillon effect, the idea that money isn't neutral. Who gets it first benefits the most. Those closest to the money printer get rich. Those furthest, like wage workers, get left behind. You work harder, but your rent, food, and healthcare rise faster than your paycheck. Because the game isn't about work. It's about timing and access. And just when you think you're making progress, boom, the music stops. The central banks raise rates. The party ends. Welcome to Phase 2, Monetary Tightening, the Crackdown. So you survived the first phase, the great money printing bonanza. Stocks are up. Housing is up. Crypto's mooning. Everyone's talking about getting rich. But behind the scenes, the central banks are watching. They see inflation rising, too much money chasing too few goods. wages start creeping up, the cost of living is exploding, and now it's time to pull the plug. Welcome to Phase 2, tightening the noose. Suddenly, central banks reverse course. They raise interest rates, not by 0.5%, but by 0.5%, then 0.75%, sometimes even a full percent in a single meeting. Why? To fight inflation? Maybe. But here's the unspoken truth. This is also how they take back control. Higher interest rates make borrowing more expensive for everyone. Mortgages, car loans, credit cards, business loans all start to choke under the weight of rising costs. Consumers stop spending, companies stop hiring, the economy slows, and asset prices? They begin to tumble. Stocks collapse, real estate freezes, crypto gets slaughtered. This isn't a bug, it's the plan. The goal isn't a soft landing, it's a controlled demolition. But let's be clear, when the tightening begins, it doesn't hit the elite first. It hits you, the average person, the wage earner, the small business owner. Your mortgage gets more expensive. Your credit card balance grows. Your savings lose value because inflation is still outpacing interest. Meanwhile, the elites? They already rotated out. They sold their stocks at the top. They converted paper profits into hard assets, land, gold, offshore holdings. They're sitting in cash waiting for the crash. And when the crash hits, they'll buy it all back, cheap. This is how the cycle resets. Every time. Let's go back to recent history. After printing over $4 trillion during the COVID panic, the Fed turned hawkish in 2022. By mid-2023, interest rates in the US hit 5.25%, the highest in decades. Mortgage rates doubled. Real estate sales collapsed. Tech stocks, which thrived on cheap money, were crushed. And who got hit hardest? Middle-class families trying to buy their first home. Small businesses trying to get a loan. Consumers drowning in credit card debt. Meanwhile, BlackRock, Vanguard, and mega hedge funds quietly bought up discounted homes in cash, becoming America's landlords. Tightening doesn't hurt the elite. It sets the table for their next feast. Every cycle has a popping point. As rates rise, something breaks. It could be a tech bubble, a housing market, or an entire bank, like we saw with Silicon Valley Bank. The weakest link snaps first. Panic spreads. Markets plunge. Layoffs begin. And suddenly, everyone starts screaming again, lower rates. Print money. Save the economy. And the central banks? They listen. They knew this would happen. Because now we enter Phase 3, the controlled collapse, and the power grab. So the bubble pops. Markets crash. Banks fail. People panic. It looks like chaos, but to the elite, this is precision surgery. Welcome to Phase 3, controlled collapse. Not a failure of the system, but a calculated cleansing. And while the public is bleeding, the architects of the system are tightening their grip. You've heard that phrase, right? In every major crisis, whether it's economic, political, or even a pandemic, power consolidates. Why? Because during fear and confusion, the masses beg for solutions, not realizing they're handing over control. After 9/11s, we got the Patriot Act, surveillance powers ballooned. After 2008, banks didn't shrink, they got bigger. Too big to fail became policy. After COVID, trillions were printed and digital tracking of movement, spending, and health data exploded. And after every economic crash, what do we get? Bailouts for the rich, foreclosures for the poor, new financial rules, more centralized control. Let's talk about one of the most dangerous post-crash solutions being pushed: central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Sounds innocent, right? A digital dollar. What's the big deal? But here's what they don't tell you with CBDCs. Every transaction can be tracked, analyzed, and even blocked. They can be programmed, meaning your money could expire or be limited to specific purchases. They eliminate cash, which means no more privacy, no more escape. Think about it. In a future crash, they could say, "We'll give you stimulus money, but only if you accept our digital currency." And just like that, you're inside the cage. No bank runs. no cash hoarding, no freedom. Let's be brutally honest. The middle class loses homes, jobs, security. The poor gets crushed. No assets, no power, no voice. But the elite, they clean up. They buy distressed assets for pennies. They lobby for new rules written by them, for them. They acquire smaller competitors who couldn't survive the storm. In 2008, over 465 banks failed. Who bought them? The big ones, Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, got even bigger. Consolidation isn't a side effect. It's the goal. When the elite crash the system and scoop up assets, guess what happens next? You can't afford a home anymore, so you rent. But who owns the homes? BlackRock, hedge funds, private equity. You don't own anything, but you keep paying forever. That's not capitalism. That's feudalism with better branding, and it's spreading. By 2030, the World Economic Forum predicts you will own nothing and you will be happy. It's not a prediction, it's a plan. But it's not just about money, it's about psychology. Each crash breaks your confidence in yourself, in markets, in independence. You stop questioning, you start complying. After enough collapses, most people accept the cycle as normal. They stop dreaming of freedom. They just try to survive. And that's when the elite win, not just financially, but mentally. But here's the good news. Once you see the cycle, you can step outside it. You can learn to play offense, not defense. In the final part of this video, we'll talk about what the end game looks like and how to protect yourself from becoming a permanent pawn. The most dangerous move in the elite's playbook is next. Don't miss it. You've seen the cycle. Phase 1, print money and pump the bubble. Phase 2, raise rates and tighten the noose. Phase 3, let the system collapse and grab more power. Now comes Phase 4, the endgame, where the elite reshape the world in their image while most people are too busy surviving to notice. But this is also where you can finally start winning if you understand what's coming next. What do the elite want? Not destruction, but domination. Not equality, but centralization. Every time the cycle completes, they don't start over from zero. They start over with more power, more assets, and fewer obstacles. The endgame isn't just about money. It's about building a world where they own everything and you own nothing. You don't own your house. You rent. You don't own your car. You subscribe. You don't have savings. You rely on government credits. You don't have privacy. Every transaction tracked. You don't choose freedom. You choose comfort or starve. That's the system being designed around you, and it's being sold to you as progress. In the old world, slavery was physical. In today's world, it's financial. Debt is the new chain. Inflation is the hidden tax. Easy money is the bait. Control is the trap. They've replaced the whip with credit cards, the plantation with the workplace, the overseer with the algorithm. But the outcome is the same. You work. They extract. You struggle. They profit. You obey. They rule. So how do you escape this game? Understand the cycle. Knowledge is the first weapon. If you can anticipate the moves, you can stop reacting emotionally and start preparing rationally. Stop playing their inflation game. Don't hold cash long-term. It loses value every year. Convert into productive or scarce assets, land, gold, skills, business, or networks. Don't be the last beer. If something is skyrocketing and everyone is talking about it, you're probably late. Buy when blood is in the streets. Sell when everyone's drunk on profits. Build income outside their system. Digital business, real-world skills, decentralized tools. If your life depends on their jobs, their banks, their rules, you're not free. Value privacy and sovereignty. Don't rush into every shiny new tech. Ask who controls it, who profits from it, and what freedoms it might cost you later. Let's stop pretending this is a market fluctuation or economic cycle. This is a class war fought silently. The weapons are not tanks or guns, but interest rates, inflation, bailouts, and media manipulation. You're not just playing a game. You're in a war for your financial future. And if you're not aware of the rules, you've already lost. But now you know. Now you can fight. This system wasn't made for you to win, but it can't stop you from escaping. Not if you educate yourself. Not if you take action early. Not if you stop consuming and start creating. Because once you control your time, your money, and your choices, you're no longer a pawn. You're a player. And players rewrite the game. If this video opened your eyes, do one thing now, like, share, and subscribe to Debt Free Lane. Let's grow this army of people who refuse to be sheared like sheep. Because freedom is only possible when the truth is loud enough to break the silence. This is Debt Free Lane, and this is just the beginning.